Well, it has been a difficult couple of weeks for the Crows, and that culminated in a thrashing at the hands of the Gold Coast Suns. And Daniel Talia, one of the club's leaders, had some strong words to say after the game.
Yeah, pretty simply, we're just not coming to play. Majority of guys just aren't playing their role and playing it to the standard that you need to win games of AFL footy. I don't think I've been a team that's been this non-competitive, so that's to put it simply.
It's not very often, Kane, that you hear players call their own sides uncompetitive, but it's hard to dismiss what Daniel Talia had to say, hard to disagree with him.
It is, Lordo, and your comments that they're not up to AFL standard today ring true.
Yeah, and we heard Matthew Nicks on 3AW tonight, Sam, and he spoke about they've just had the old sit in a room. There's nowhere to go otherwise from their hub and their hotel room, so they've had to sit down. Matthew Nicks himself said, is there something I'm doing wrong? Do you not understand my game plan? Why aren't you competing for me? So they've had all those questions asked. Those players have said, no, we understand what your game plan is, but he wants to get to the bottom of why the effort isn't there, which is really concerning for the Adelaide Crows this early in the season too.
They've gone really young, Kane and Caro, and now they're starting to question some of their older players. We know Bryce Gibbs has been dropped again since round one. We don't know whether he's going to come back into the side under Matthew Nicks. And Matthew Nicks on 3AW Sports Day, only hours ago, had this to say about one of the club's great servants, Taylor Walker.
Would Taylor Walker be safe at selection?
I mean, we had 18 marks against on the weekend. I don't know if that's a record, but it'd be right up there. We're asking a lot at this point of Tex and Darcy Fogarty as our keys. Those guys are helping out in the ruck. It's more than just bringing in a tall forward of the ball, but to probably come back and answer your question. Tex at this point in time is struggling to get that job done forward of the ball.
I was part of that interview with you, Sam, and there's no doubt it's a toss of the coin whether Tex plays on the weekend. It'll be a massive fall from grace for Tex, who was a captain last year in the worst side in the competition, and you get left out for probably another kid. But you know what the issue? He's not getting great service, but he has to compete. Bring the ball to ground, crash a pack. His young players are asking for that. Doesn't have to kick 5, but he's got to be more competitive than he has been over the last few weeks.
Kane, don't you think that the Adelaide Footy Club right now on the field needs a Taylor Walker? It needs his leadership, even if he's not playing. He's not the same player he was 5 years ago. He'd probably be the first to admit that. You've
got to give Frampton and Himmelberg a shot. Now, that you can't play Tex, Fogarty, Frampton and or Himmelberg in the same side. So you recruit Billy Frampton from Port Adelaide. We need to know if he can play. Now, he's competed at training. We've seen that and he's made a statement there. Himmelberg's out of contract. We've got to know if these guys can play, if they have a future in the AFL. We know that Tex can deliver what he can deliver, but Crows fans would rather see some youth, I think. Is it this week? I'm not sure, but the writing's on the wall for Taylor Walker.
Caro, it seems that off-field leadership at Adelaide has also been an issue. We know that going back to previous years. But what did you make of the football director, Mark RICCIUTO, having to say what he did on Twitter in an exchange that, it's got to say, got a little ugly in the end with Hugh Greenwood, of course, has moved from the Adelaide Crows to the Gold Coast Suns. Enjoy the win, mate, by the way. If you were quicker and younger, you might have had more than 10 touches. Hugh then responded, what a shock. Someone at the Crows more concerned about disposals than actual impact on the game. Who would have thought?
Look, it was actually really biting from Hugh Greenwood, and he was one of a long list of players who was named and shamed by Mark RICCIUTO last week, who had good games on the weekend. And you made your point about the older players, and he's another 28-year-old, isn't he? I actually felt sorry for Mark RICCIUTO there. I thought he was just having a bit of a friendly sort of joke, wasn't he? I didn't think... I mean, I thought Greenwood came back pretty hard.
If I'm a coach, I don't need my footy director chipping in with that.
This is so much bigger than Matthew Nicks, you're right.
Adding fuel to the fire on the back of last week when Mark RICCIUTO did go on his Triple M spot in the morning and he made waves with these comments about the players that have departed.
Eddie Betts, we need to get some youth into our side. He's 33. We were comfortable for him to go. Jenkins, very happy for him to go. Once again, age, Hugh Greenwood. That was as much our call. He's 28 this year and not going to be playing our next premiership side, so we're trying to get draft picks in to rebuild.
So if that's the precedent from Mark RICCIUTO, if you're 28 years of age, he's basically saying you can't win a flag at the Adelaide Football Club. That's what he's saying. So you're wondering why there's a lack of effort from the Adelaide Football Club, particularly from the elder players. It's because they believe that their club doesn't think that they'll win a flag. If I'm Brad Croucher, who's 27, Smith, Seasman, Talia, Lynch, Walker, Sloan and Gibbs, I now know that my football club thinks that I cannot win a flag because I'm of the age of 28, and perhaps that's why you're seeing the effort that they're giving on the field, because what's the motivation for them to rock up and play if their club and their most famous name does not think that they can win a flag?
Yeah, it's interesting. I knew towards the end of my career that I wasn't going to win a flag, but still the effort. The pride in your jumper, the pride in your teammates. Kane, you'd hate if it was because
You'd
of
had
Ricciuto's.
one though, Lauder. You'd been to the top.
Yeah.
You'd had a flag.
I know,
Those
but it was a
names
long
there
time ago.
have never been there,
Yeah.
and they've never tasted what you have tasted. So at least you could sleep at night and say, "I've got a flag." If I'm Daniel Taylor, who's given his heart and soul, why am I turning up and playing?
I just think ultimately to close off on the Ricciuto comments, he didn't need to do it. Like he's arguably the club's greatest ever player and the most notable figure in Adelaide. He's so highly respected. Put on top of that, he's the club footy director. To get involved in a Twitter spat, I just don't think serves any purpose.
You feel the clean out at Adelaide has not ended. Are they rebuilding? I've got no idea what they're doing with their list, but I do think with the chairman will go, you'd have to question some of the other senior executive roles at the club. I'm not necessarily saying the CEO, but others around him. And it clearly...
Who else is still there?
Oh, well, I mentioned in a piece I wrote on the weekend, when your media boss is still briefing journos and saying the camp stories are overblown, I mean, you've got to put your hand up at some point.
So you're saying
Shuttleworth's fault?
Ian Shuttleworth is downplaying the issues?
Yeah, and I think those who deny history are doomed to repeat it, to use the old saying. And I think this is what is... One day this will be a great case study in AFL footy. What happened at that camp and the cover-up afterwards that led to this. And it is all to do with the camp, I promise you.
Caro,
it won't go away.
Would you move Mark Ricciuto on?
No, I wouldn't. I would not. No, I just think that how many big names are you going to exit from that club? He's got a few lessons to learn. He did his best with the review last year, but he made some big blues, and I think he should stick around and try and fix them.
It's big from you considering you hate conflicts, and I think he's as conflicted as anyone, trying to do a media role and play that role. I think he's just asking for trouble staying in. I think he's got to choose. Am I involved with the Crows or am I want to be a media commentator?
Because, Lordy and Caro, this issue isn't going away. He's probably got 5 years of the Adelaide Footy Club rebuilding and he has to front up on Adelaide radio, which is vicious. Every morning he's going to be asked for comment. It's not going to be the last time
it's a quirky place, a quirky situation. I'm not going to sack Eddie Maguire, Mark Ricciuto, Jimmy Bartell all in the one fell swoop.
You should throw Jimmy in there.
At times I've had a crack.
Poor Jimmy won't like that. Kane, one of the more pressing issues, though, for the Adelaide Crows is how do they improve, not just with their playing list, but also on the field in as far as game style, tactics. You wrote a really interesting article in the Advertiser last week about Matthew Nicks, and you thought that the setup around him wasn't strong enough to let him be the best coach that he could be. Here's his response to that question.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Jane. Yeah, thanks for backing me in. That'd be great if you had a chat to me, but I've got some fantastic experienced people around me at the moment. We're always looking to get better, but at this point, really, I couldn't be more happy with the group I'm working with.
Didn't you make the choice of not having a senior assistant coach?
It wasn't so much a choice of not having one, it was more about working with the group that we've got.
Well, it was the wrong choice. There's absolutely no doubt Matthew Nicks has been hung out to dry by the Adelaide Football Club. His head of football, Adam Kelly, is in 6 months into the role. Andrew Fagan's a rugby background and doesn't have a lot of AFL experience. Rob Chapman, the chairman, is stepping down. And Mark Ricciuto seems conflicted and out of his depth at the moment. So Matthew Nicks needs help from somewhere, whether that's in his coaching department, whether that's in his footy staff. He just needs some help because it's going to be a long road for him to go it alone. I want to look at the vision now and why it's so concerning at the Adelaide Football Club. This has nothing to do with talent. This has everything to do about effort as we get into the game from the weekend. This is against the last place side from last year, and this vision is basically what you would see at a training run. Now, this is early in the game, or this is the third quarter, but these clips are going to come from early in the game as well. This is training drill stuff. This is Taylor Walker in the ruck. He looks like he's dancing by himself there, Taylor Walker. I understand he's not a ruckman, but this one here, this is Swallow. 3 Crows in front of Swallow. Look who gets this crumb. This is Adelaide's forward line. This is early in the game. That's Swallow, and then they're away. Once again, I could show that. That is training drill stuff. They win the contested ball here. Adelaide Crows doing absolutely nothing to pressure them. Look how much time the Gold Coast Football Club have against a seasoned Adelaide side in this one. Have a look at this. Are we switched on here? Are we defending like this? Is our life dependent on it? Look at the effort from Brad Crouch there. Another goal to the third game of Matt Rao, who was sensational again. So that's the most concerning thing for me at Adelaide, and the midfield numbers and all the numbers across the board are pretty stark.
Look, we have been fairly negative about Adelaide. They, as their key defender said today, in a world of pain or a world of hurt. But how far have the Gold Coast Suns come from last winter? Let's have a look at their new player, Brandon Ellis, when he was playing against them at half-time in a Richmond thrashing of the Gold Coast last season.
Our percentage isn't the greatest at the moment, so, a good win today will hopefully boost that up, and then, we'll look forward to GWS next week.
And there's Don Pike actually having a chuckle again, a Gold Coast game.
Look at the score, Carol. 144 to 38.
I know. And Brandon Ellis bizarrely was talking about building up the percentage and who they were playing next week, and that was at half-time. It's been a remarkable turnaround by them.
I was chatting to Sam earlier. Biggest highlight for me, they've breathed so much life into this season, a challenging season. And I said to Sam, I'd love if the fixture comes out in round 5, or 6, sorry, and they're on Friday night. I think I'd love to see them on the big stage against a big team because I think they deserve it, because everyone's loving watching the Suns. I'm not sure how it would rate, Caro, but from a pure football perspective, they would be fantastic.
So we laughed
another rising star today too. And do you think Brandon Ellis is closer to a flag with the Suns than the Tigers are at the moment?
Give me another month and he could quite possibly be.
You're not serious, Luke.
Yeah. Give me another month, and if some of these players from Richmond continue to play like they don't have the hunger like they do, Brandon could quite possibly be closer.
Wow.